It all started with a camping trip in the remote forests of Northern California. A group of 5 friends, James, Sarah, Emily, Michael, and Olivia, had been planning it for months. They were all seasoned hikers, excited to escape the city's clamor and immerse themselves in nature. The deep, ancient forest offered the perfect place to disconnect. The first 2 days went by smoothly. The group pitched their tents near a serene lake surrounded by towering redwoods. Each night, the sounds of crickets and the occasional howl of distant wolves were the only noises that broke the silence. But on the 3rd night, everything changed. They were gathered around the campfire, laughing and sharing stories when suddenly, the laughter was interrupted by a strange noise in the distance. It was like a siren, an old, mechanical wail that grew louder and more intense. They looked at each other, puzzled. "Did anyone else hear that?" asked James, looking into the forest with a frown. "It's probably just an emergency vehicle somewhere far away," Emily shrugged. "We're not too far from the main road, right?" But Olivia wasn't convinced. It sounded off, like too distorted. And besides, it came from deeper in the forest. Michael laughed nervously. "Relax, leave. We're in the middle of nowhere. What would a siren be doing out here?" Despite their reassurances, Olivia couldn't shake the eerie feeling that crept over her. That night, she stayed up in her tent, listening, unable to fall asleep. Then she heard it again. The same wail, distant at first, but it grew louder and louder until it seemed to be right outside the tent. Her heart raced as the sound morphed into something almost human, a garbled voice, as if someone was trying to speak through a broken radio. "Help! Me!" Olivia shot up, wide-eyed. "Michael! James!" she whispered, hoping one of her friends was playing a cruel prank. But the sound wasn't coming from any of them, it was coming from the forest. Slowly, she unzipped her tent, her breath hitching as she peeked outside. What she saw sent a chill down her spine. At the edge of their campsite, looming between the trees, stood a figure unlike anything she had ever seen. It was impossibly tall, at least 40 feet, with a gaunt, emaciated body. But its head, or what should have been its head, was replaced by 2 large sirens. One of them emitted the eerie mechanical noise, while the other occasionally let out garbled fragments of speech, like a malfunctioning loudspeaker. "Help! Lost! Need help!" Olivia's scream broke the silence, waking the others. They rushed out of their tents, just in time to see the creature retreat into the woods, its sirens fading with every step. "Did you see that?" Olivia gasped, pointing to where the creature had been. "See what?" Sarah asked, rubbing her eyes grudgingly. "There was something there. It was huge," and Olivia was shaking, her words spilling out incoherently. "Calm down, leave. You were probably dreaming," James suggested, though his voice was uneasy. "I wasn't. I saw it," Olivia insisted, her eyes wide with fear. But no one believed her. Not yet. The next day, they continued their hike deeper into the forest, though Olivia was jumpy, constantly looking over her shoulder. By late afternoon, they reached a clearing where they set up camp again. The day passed without incident, and the others began to relax, assuming Olivia's vision had been a product of exhaustion or an overactive imagination. But that night, the sirens returned. This time, they were louder, closer. The same eerie, distorted sound reverberated through the trees, followed by the garbled voice. "Help! Me!" James was the first to investigate. Armed with a flashlight, he ventured into the trees, the others reluctantly following. The beam of the flashlight cut through the darkness, but there was nothing, just trees and silence. But then the siren blared again, right above them. They looked up and froze. Perched among the branches of the tallest tree was the creature, its skeletal frame barely visible against the night sky. The sirens on its head spun slowly, emitting that same haunting wail. And then, as they watched in horror, it began to climb down the tree, its long, spindly limbs moving with unnatural speed. "Run!" Michael screamed, and they bolted back to camp, hearts pounding. They didn't stop running until they reached their tents, panting and terrified. "We need to leave," Olivia said, her voice trembling. "Now." But James shook his head. "It's the middle of the night. We can't just." The siren sounded again, closer this time. Too close. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shook, and from the shadows, the creature emerged. Its sirens blared, louder than ever before, disorienting them as it moved with horrifying speed. It reached for Sarah, its long, bony fingers stretching out like claws. "Sarah!" Emily screamed, but it was too late. The creature grabbed her, pulling her into the darkness, her screams mingling with the wail of the sirens. Panic set in. They grabbed whatever they could and ran, not stopping until they were deep in the forest, far from the campsite. But the siren followed them, echoing through the trees, growing fainter, then louder, as if the creature was toying with them. They were trapped. There was no way out of the forest, no cell service, and the nearest town was miles away. As dawn approached, they collapsed from exhaustion, huddled together in a clearing, hoping that daylight would drive the creature away. But the siren never stopped. By midday, they reached an abandoned ranger station. It was their only hope. They barricaded themselves inside, praying that the creature wouldn't find them. For hours, there was silence, but then the siren returned, this time softer, almost like a whisper. The garbled voice echoed through the walls. "Help! Me!" Olivia's eyes widened. "It's here." The creature's shadow loomed outside the station, its siren spinning, louder and louder until it was deafening. The walls shook, windows shattered, and the creature reached through the broken glass, its skeletal hand grasping for them. With a final scream, the world went dark.